let me shift here, and I just want to talk a little bit about silence. Silence, my sisters and brothers, has many dimensions. There is a sacred silence, which is that silence out of which creative contemplation grows. It's a meditation on the word and the will of God. It's the silence out of which we meditate and get closer to God. It's the silence in which fervent prayer is born. There is a sacred silence. But then there's a seething silence that comes when you are quiet externally, but you've got a storm going on the inside. The late Dr. Howard Thurman called that a noisy quietness. But then finally, and here's the silence I want to get to, there is a sinful silence. And Adam's silence falls into this category because a sinful silence is a silence that comes over you when you ought to say something, but you don't say nothing at all. It is that silence that creeps in when you ought to speak up for God, but you sit there acting like you don't know what God said. My sisters and brothers, I fear that Adam was not only silent on that fateful day in the garden when a serpent showed up, but Adam has remained silent through the centuries. When Africans were captured and taken from their homeland, packed in the hulls of ships, sold on auction blocks, beat and killed and misused and kept in shadow slavery, Adam was silent. When Jews were persecuted, deported, and murdered by Nazis, Adam was silent. When Native Americans were slaughtered in the acts of genocide so their land could be taken from them, Adam was silent. When our ancestors were lynched and called boy and girl, even though they were full grown, when they were denied employment and equal access to resources, Adam was silent. And today, far too often, when our boys are shooting and killing each other on the streets, and our girls suffer from low self-esteem and give birth to children whose daddies won't stay around to take care of them, Adam is still silent. Sisters and brothers, there is a sinful silence among us when injustice is raging and we remain quiet. When people are aching, when people are hurting, when babies are crying and dying of hunger and not having enough love from insufficient care, and we remain silent, that is a sinful silence. When the church looks and sees what's going on in its communities, and not just in its communities, but what's going on right there in the household of faith, and we sit there and act like we don't know what's going on, that is a sinful silence. And let me suggest that there's a time when silence is sinful. And here in the text, we see a snake talking to Adam's wife. Adam remains silent. Adam should have said something. My sisters and brothers, the nation is waiting for somebody to say something. Go on, touch your neighbor and tell them you ought to say something. You see them boys on the corner, you ought to say something. You see what's happening with those sisters. I'm not talking about Pookie and Ray Ray and them. I'm talking about the saints' children. Y'all ain't gonna help me in here today. You ought to say something. The classroom is waiting for somebody to say something. Youth violence is waiting for somebody to say something. Every community, every city, every town, every home, every boy, every girl, every family is waiting for the church to break the silence. And if we don't break the silence, let me tell you what's going to happen. If we don't break the silence, we end up embracing the appeals of the serpent. What are the appeals of the serpent? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You got a responsibility to go back to Lodabar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Somebody gotta tell themselves it's all right if you got it now, just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now. I may not get it next week.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. It is 3 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us up until the 9 o'clock hour with The Promise. You can hear The Promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music. Good way to start out your Monday morning. A great way to start out your week. It is the Monday after Mother's Day. Happy belated to all of the mamas that are out there, particularly the black mamas. We salute you. Happy birthday to my church mother, Mother Mary James, who has been like a second mom and a surrogate grandmother to my children. Happy Mother's Day. Happy birthday to Mother James. I celebrate my mother, Dolores Swan, my wife, Cynthia Swan, my daughters, who are mothers, my nieces, my sisters, and to all the wonderful women in my life who are mothers and mother figures. Salute to you. Listen, all right. Kevin Samuels died last week, and there was a lot of controversy around it in terms of the conversation that was going on in the public sphere, particularly among black folks and black women. Talk a little bit about that. And let's talk a little bit about protect black women, but let's also talk about love and respect black men. Can we do all of that at the same time? Can't we do all of that? Can't we protect black women and love and respect black men simultaneously? Or does that have to just be, one or the other? I think you know the answer to that. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867 is the number. If you want to chime in on the conversation, if you're in the Twitter space or joining in the Twitter space, you just put your request in and we can get you on the air. Matter of fact, there's already a request in. So we'll get you on the air. Or you can call in and certainly put your comments and stuff in the chat section on social media. Good morning to everyone in the Pioneer Valley who's listening over WTCC Radio. Good morning to our Facebook audience, our YouTube audience, our Twitter audience, our Twitch audience, our Instagram audience, to everybody from everywhere that is chiming into the program. Good morning. Wonderful, wonderful Monday after Mother's Day. I hope you had a wonderful celebration yesterday. I certainly did enjoy being with my mom and my wife and my daughters and my sisters and my family on yesterday. All right, but let's get this conversation going. Let's get it crunk. Rep your city, rep your town. I need y'all to put it right in the comment section now. What town, what city are you representing? Where are you chiming in from? What part of the world are you coming from? I see Springfield is in the house. Who else is in the house? I see Maryland is in the house. I see Chicago is in the house. I see my daughter on here, Whitney. Happy belated. Although we did speak yesterday, Mother's Day, to my 3 wonderful Chicago-based grandbabies. Mattapan, Massachusetts is in the house. What's up, Brother Lyle Seymour? He used to be my neighbor, y'all. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Washington, D.C. Good morning from the ATL on the gram. Good morning to you. Who else is up in here? Another Atlanta Dream Style is in here. Tennessee is in here. Hagerstown, Maryland is in here. Where you at, YouTube? Where you at? Do I need to share this on YouTube? Should I share this on YouTube? Maybe I need to share this on YouTube. So they know we're up in here. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, checking in the building. Okay. Louisiana, Toronto. All right, Toronto, Dallas, Texas, by way of Dubai. Up in the house. Toronto, Canada is in here, y'all. They're in here. Yes. We've got an international audience. Another ATL is up in here. ATL is back up in the building. Yes. Good morning. ATL is thick, y'all. ATL is thick up in here. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. Swingfield, I like that. Swingfield, that's my frat brother, y'all. Domingo Sambula, Domingo Madness is up in the building. Yes, sir, by way of New York. He's in here. You're in here. We're in here. All together now. Houston, Texas is up in here. All right, listen. Let me play a little song break here, and then we're going to come back. Y'all been loving Ferris Hill, so I'm going to keep on playing until y'all get the message. He keeps telling y'all, don't stop. Don't stop, y'all. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
but the end of the road has changed. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Take a little higher, take a little deeper, go a little further. Come on, come on, come on, yeah. Take a little deeper, go a little further. Come on, don't stop. The essence of life is growth. But the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Your life will never change until you get disgusted with where you are. Whatever you don't hate is what you tolerate. You must learn from the past, plan for the future, and live for forget. So it is your daily routine that determines your success or failure in life. It's the choices that you have made up until this point that will determine the rest of your life. So break the cycle that doing enough is simply good enough. You don't get out what you put in, so don't settle for the crumbs so you can have a whole lot. So push it to push beyond your limitations. Come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Don't stop. Come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So you gotta break the routine of trying to beat the system. Manipulators will always try to bypass the process for the quick progress. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no elevators to the top. You gotta take it one step at a time. You gotta break the routine of allowing others to get into your head and control who you are and where you're going. You see, when you're about the positive, you're gonna always have haters. But don't let your haters push you down, let your haters push you forward to the next level. So when people show you who they really are, don't perceive them to be something else that they're not. See, a zebra does not change his stripes. So you gotta keep pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, there you go. Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Don't stop.
Come on. Yeah.
Reach a little higher.
Reach a little higher. Take a little deeper.
That's it. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Come on. You gotta understand the greatness is the nature that you were born out of. You'll never discover your greatness without hard work and dedication. Greatness says more about who you are and what you expect for yourself. And greatness will always attract greatness. Show me your friends and I'll show you the future. The future. You get to step away.
Just step away, family.
You just step away. Don't ever give up. Come on. You just a step away. You almost there.
Just a step away.
You gotta push your stuff beyond your limitations. You see, there's no mountain too high, no valley too low.
Keep on moving.
You know where you want to go. It's all in the power of your imagination. You can see the invisible. You can do the impossible. So
Don't give up.
take yourself to the next level. Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher. Get a little deeper.
Go a little further.
Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher. Get a little deeper.
Go a little further.
Don't stop, don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
There's a blessing waiting on you.
Come on.
Somebody type that in the comments. Right around the corner. There's a blessing waiting on you.
Don't stop. Don't stop until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Until you get your dream. Come on. Don't stop until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Come on. Yes. Don't stop. Come on. Come on. Come on. Go for the goal. Come on. You gotta go for the goal. You gotta go for the goal. Don't stop. Don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
Don't stop.
What you make in a year, you gonna make in a month. What you make in a month, you gonna make in a week. And what you make in a week, you gonna make in a day. Because the blessings are coming your way, baby.
Oh, the blessings are coming your way. Don't stop, y'all. I like what I see Rhonda Swan. Right after this, we're going to get into our conversation. Share. Tell a friend, tell somebody we're on the air. Let's get it.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, it stole me from a hit, but it just made me stronger and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to the level. I
love that nonsense. Made a liar of the devil.
The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I can see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a
Child of the King.
abundant love for me he came to bring.
Yes.
Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
That's my big sis, Rhonda Swan. Happy Heavenly Mother's Day. It's a blessing to be able to spend time with her children and grandchildren on yesterday. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867 is the number here. You want to chime in on the conversation that we're about to get drunk. Kevin Samuel's death. Protect black women, love and respect black men. Drew Stevenson has been waiting for a minute in the Twitter space. Let's see if we can get Drew up in here. Drew, unmute your mic. What's on your mind, brother? You in the house, Drew?
Bishop, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Greetings from Tampa, Florida.
All right, Tampa in the house. It must be hot out there.
It's not yet. I just finished walking the dog, so I won't be able to do that in about 2 hours.
Gotcha. Listen, I know Tampa.
I was on a thread on Friday where the young lady said that she hadn't read or seen many of his videos, but yet he was already opposing. And I tell you what, I had seen a few of his clips, and I went down the rabbit hole last week, and I don't see a lot of the things that people are saying. What I see this brother is doing is bringing accountability on both sides. And what people do, they get caught up in these internet problems where they got others that are reinforcing this negativity and this wrong thinking. And when someone comes and pricks that bubble, it's shattering.
You know, here's the thing. Everybody has an opinion and a right to share it, whether you agree or disagree. I think there's a distinct difference between a YouTuber sharing a controversial opinion that you may disagree with, and that may even be offensive. I can understand why black women were offended. However, at the end of the day, he's giving relationship advice. He's not stoking the flames of hatred to the point where people are acting upon his words and bringing harm to other people. So if this is a Rush Limbaugh or someone who these crazy white supremacists go out and act upon the vitriol and actually cause harm to people, I get it. And so I get the disdain, but what I don't get is this. If you can't say protect black women, respect black women, and then at the same time, you know that a black mother is grieving the weekend of Mother's Day, and you're piling on to her son and what she's reading on social media, where she found out her son died. are a bunch of black women castigating her son. So you can't not give a hamburger about that black woman and simultaneously talk about protect black women.
Exactly. I'm not going to take much of your time, but I want to tell you some of the stuff that you did with the Trump administration was some of the best reading I've had at the office.
Oh, man. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother. Be blessed,
you too. Take care. 413-337-1867. If you're in the Twitter space, throw your request up in there. So Kevin Samuels, who was famous or infamous or had notoriety, whatever you want to term it, for dishing out some controversial dating advice on social media, with about 1 million plus subscribers on YouTube, and I think he had about 1 million on Instagram or so. He died. He was allegedly with a 32-year-old who was a nurse, and he was having chest pains and collapsed and died. He was an influencer, a self-proclaimed image consultant, lifestyle coach, dating expert. I don't know if he was an expert or not. I really didn't listen to him a whole lot. I would always see clips here and there, and people, discussing what he said. This whole high level, high value man, high value woman, all that, it really didn't apply to me. I've been married 31 years. So I wasn't really looking for dating advice. And my value was not tied up in what he had to say. My value wasn't tied up in my wallet, making a certain amount of money, so on and so forth. But there were people who were offended by what he said, and I get it. I understand. I did not agree with 99% of what he had to say. But I also don't agree with black people who are talking about respecting black women, castigating him on the day of his death. Can his family get a half a minute to grieve a little bit before you start piling on? This is the day he died. They were going in like Hitler had just died. It was Mussolini, like it was F.W. de Klerk in the middle of apartheid, who had just died. Like it was the devil himself. Like they had gotten the news that Lucifer just kicked the bucket. This is how it looked. This is how it looked. And I'm not, again, trying to diminish the real feelings that people had about what this man said, what he represented, what he said about black women, what he even said about black men. He would have every right to be offended. Yet, to carry on the way we carried on as a community was embarrassing. It was downright embarrassing. Somebody on Instagram said he was verbally abusive. Yeah. And so were the people who were commenting when he died. They were very verbally abusive. So it's hypocritical to complain about someone being verbally abusive and then to unleash a vitriolic verbal tirade on the day of someone's death, who had a black mama and a black sister and a black daughter. Come on now. If we're protecting black women, if we're respecting black women, what type of respect and grace did you all give to those black women that were grieving in that moment? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, they gave back the energy he put out, but they didn't give it to him. He was dead. The time to give him back the energy he put out was while he was alive putting it out. They were giving that energy back to his grieving family, not to him. He couldn't hear it. He couldn't hear it. He was gone. He didn't hear, he didn't read any of the things y'all said. Nothing y'all said. All the insults and stuff, he didn't hear any of that. Okay? Any of that. His mama did. His daughter did. His sister did. His family members did. At a BC, I agree. Don't degrade black women at any time. Yes. Yes. Agree. See, this is where y'all get it twisted. Y'all think two things can't be true at the same time. And so a lot of y'all came after people like me, people like my brother Terrain Walker out of Atlanta and others who were basically saying, let's not as a community be guilty of doing the things we're condemning Kevin Samuels of doing. Let's not be guilty of verbally being abusive, bullying, being vitriolic on the day this man died and disrespecting his family simply because of what we didn't like about him. Let's not be hypocritical. That's what we were saying. Y'all thought we couldn't say that and not simultaneously be taping for or agreeing with or being a fan of his. It's not one and the same. It's the same way that some of y'all, particularly you Democrats, think you can't be critical of Joe Biden unless you're a Trump supporter. I spent 4 years slamming Trump. And the minute I criticize Biden, oh, you're a Republican. Oh, you might as well go vote for Trump. You're a Trump supporter. You know how ignorant you sound? Like, I can't criticize Biden and not be for the Republicans at the same time. We can do both. It's not either or. You all have to stop being so myopic and so narrow-minded in your focus that you think it's either or. It can be both and. I can despise the policies and the practices of the Republicans and criticize the policies and the hypocrisy of the Democrats at the same time. I can despise what Kevin Samuels had to say about black women and despise the way that black women reacted to his death at the same time. You can do both. It's not either or. Okay? That's what you guys need to understand. Exactly, Lady K. It's both and. Kevin Samuels was wrong. Like I said, I disagree with 99% of what the brother said. He was wrong in the way he degraded black women. But I'm not going to tell you that black women were right in the way they disrespected his mama and his family on the day he died. And so I said some stuff people got mad with me about. I saw black women saying nice things about George W. Bush, about George Herbert Walker Bush, rather, and John McCain when they died. Two white supremacists who used race in their politics, who opposed civil rights and everything that was beneficial to black people. But because they weren't perceived as being as bad as Donald Trump, they were perceived as deserving of respect. And y'all was rest in peace when those warmongering bigots died. And so if you could say something nice about them, you could have said nothing about Kevin Samuels. You could have waited a moment and let his family have a minute to grieve and then got into the conversation about his legacy. That's all we're saying. Black people will forgive a white supremacist that murders their mama. whole black families will get on television talking about how the Bible said to forgive. And they forgave the murderer. They ain't even had their loved one's funeral yet. Yet we can't extend that same level of grace to a black man that dies, to his family member. Can't y'all see the hypocrisy in that? We give grace to our oppressors and our abusers more than we give grace to one another. And that's sad. Let me bring Eason up in the Twitter space. Eason, unmute your mic. You're on. Eason, you there? All right, going once. All right. Put your request back in, Eason. We'll get you in. So that's all I'm saying, y'all. We can do both and. I can disagree with the man and at the same time say, hey, show his family some respect when he dies. A lot of folk hate me. I got a mama. I have a wife. I have daughters and son and granddaughter, and grandson, and sisters and brothers. I have people that love me. I would hate to close my eyes and you all to claim to want to empower the black family, claim to want to empower and strengthen black women, and castigate me upon my death and not give a hamburger about my wife grieving, or my mama grieving, or my daughters or granddaughters grieving, and then y'all claim that you want to empower black women. No, that don't go together. That don't go together, y'all. That does not go together. Sorry. Doesn't go together. We got to do better than that. And so my conversation is not about whether or not you agree with what he said in life, but it's more so about how do we respond when they die. Because you could have simply, you could have said, you know what? I despised what this man represented and what he had to say about black women. But my condolences go out to his mother and his family. But I mean, y'all were saying, I can't even read some of the stuff y'all were saying. Rot in hell, rest in piss. Hey, well, who cares about his mama? He get the same energy that he put out. Who cares about his mama? But protect black women? That don't go together. That don't go together, family. That does not go together. Protect black women. That's that slogan that crossed over from T-shirts and Twitter and went through the halls of Washington and beyond. You remember after the killing of Breonna Taylor, and after nearly 1 million black women were pushed out of the labor market by the pandemic, that phrase became popularized by activists and athletes and entertainers and journalists. You remember rapper Megan Thee Stallion featured the word as a backdrop for her Saturday Night Live performance. It's a potent shorthand that encapsulates a range of issues that harm black women. And there are a range of issues that harm black women. You've got workplace racism, sex trafficking, high rates of maternal mortality, police violence, and the list goes on and on. And I'm glad this idea has taken hold, in terms of protecting black women, particularly in the news media. Black women need to be and should be protected. It should be. It was Rep. Robin Kelly who introduced the Protect Black Women and Girls Act of 2020. So, like I said, it made it off T-shirts into the Congress. Into the Congress. And so my question is, how do we do that? Politicians need to use their influence to have policies in place and to look at how we go about extending the cause to protect black women to a more substantive methodology, because they deserve it. At the same time, and here's why I keep saying both and, it's not either or. Because at the same time that we need to protect black women, we need to love and respect black men. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, y'all. Y'all may not like what I got to say about this, but you can't deny that it's true. You can't deny. You can't deny it. At the same time that many of you were disgusted by the things that Kevin Samuels had to say, particularly about black women. Y'all never had that same level of energy for the many, and I mean many, so-called feminists or womanists, black women who spend an inordinate amount of time disrespecting black men. And I'm talking about high-level, influential black women. Okay? Many of the black female journalists who work for these news publications like the Griot and others spend their time writing with their vitriolic pens about black men. Black men are all this. Black men are all that. Black men don't read. This was the kind of stuff that I was seeing in the wake of Kevin Samuels' death. You know, we're all Hotep. We don't read. These niggas don't read. These niggas this. These niggas that. Y'all don't have the same level of smoke for these women who go on tirades. These influential black women. There's plenty of them. There are plenty of them. I'm talking about journalists, professors. Professor Crunk was one of them. Plenty of them who spend plenty of time castigating black men. And we don't have the energy to go after them. Because many sisters are jaded by their own experience with black men that, you know, they either applaud or are silent as these other black women are joining in with white feminists to denigrate black men. So yes, I agree black women need to be protected. But can we respect and honor black men at the same time? Can we do both? Can we examine the effects of bias and abuse and violence on black women and the same effects of it on black men? I mean, come on now. And you all have to stop all of these tropes and stereotypes that you keep using. Okay? All black men don't want a white girl. And here's the thing. Let me, I might as well just peel back the layers and just keep it a buck, and say what's on my mind. I need to deal with some of you sisters that are hypocritical, that will talk smack about a black man who dates outside of the race, yet then defend a black woman who does the same thing. I ain't no good black man, and love is love, and let her do what she want to do. But then you look sideways at a black man that does the same thing. Be consistent. Come on, be consistent. Be consistent with it. You know? And not only be consistent, but let's be factual about it. The vast majority, over the 90 percentile of black men who are married to black women. So y'all stop this nonsensical, trope, that black men, just want them to get them a snow bunny and all that stuff. That is not even true. You probably can count on one hand in your circle of black men who are not with a black woman. Far and large, most black men prefer to date black women, and most black men that are married to black women. That's a fact. It's a fact. You can't refute that. That's a fact. It's an irrefutable fact. Okay? What it is. And so we have to protect black women that are being abused. We have to protect them from domestic violence. We have to protect them from other black men. Black men, we have to check our own brothers and friends and cousins for how they treat black women. At the same time, we can't deny the fact that black men are disproportionately incarcerated. Their employment measures are worse than ever, and that black boys and men face unique barriers in the labor market, are disproportionately profiled, abused, and murdered by police. And let me tell you this, and y'all ain't gonna like me for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm tired of the black women who talk grimy about black men, but have made a name for themselves in the activist space, profiting off of the death of black men. Now, I'm not going to name names, but there are a few of them, a number of them who I've had controversy with. Black women who nobody knew, who came up because of their activism around the deaths of black men or boys. Because of Ferguson, a number of sisters. And I mean, I'm talking about this one sister in particular who's risen now, who's now running a magazine and who's been nominated for this and that. Nobody knew who she was until Ferguson. but who talks grimy about black men. But she made her come up off the death of a black boy. So they got loud mouths when we're dead, and they want to pretend that they want justice for such and such a black dead man. But then you ain't got nothing positive to say about black men that are alive. Like the only time you can advocate for black men, Brittany Packnett is one of them, Pamela Grayson. I ain't gonna name all the names, but there's some out there. Just check them out. You ain't got nothing nice to say about living black men, but you want justice for dead black men? Come on, man. Come on. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Listen. If you don't have anything positive to say about me while I am alive, I don't want you opening your trap if the police murder me tomorrow. I don't want you putting a hashtag on your timeline talking about justice for Talbert Swan. I don't want you coming to no protest, calling my name out, calling yourself advocating for justice, but you ain't had nothing decent to say when I was living. No. Mm-mm. No. You obviously haven't been listening. I didn't state over anything. Y'all getting upset. That's good. That means I'm talking good. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Swan.
How you
I have
doing?
a serious question for you.
All right.
I think the Republicans are going to, most importantly, the Republicans on the Supreme Court are going to reverse. I remember, I was reading your tweets and whatever, they're going to reverse slavery, and they won't even know what hit them. And I was thinking about that for a minute, man. The conservatives, because that's why we got to get out and vote, man. It's like 6-3 right now. It's like, oh man, like what's next? They was on the mom, and they got it on the back burner. I was like, oh, they make this happen, and they don't even know what hit them.
Well, I happen to agree with you, and I know that people think that's far-fetched.
They keep doing that because they have the power.
See, people think that's far-fetched. They think it's far-fetched. One of the first things I said when it leaked out that they had voted to reverse Roe v. Wade, I said,
man. I was thinking about that this morning. I'm not trying to be funny, Mr.
Right.
But I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, they're gonna have us out there working on.
Well, that's what I said. I said we'll be back on the plantation by the fall.
My boss sees not there in the fields. Enjoy your day off. Getting them cotton fields, boy.
All right, appreciate the call. That's one of the things I said. I said they'll have us back on the plantation by the fall, and then, matter of fact, they wrote about that. They wrote about me in Breitbart magazine, one of the most racist right-wing publications in the country. But here's the thing: you all thought a lot of things that you thought were impossible happened. You thought it was impossible for them to reverse Roe v. Wade. It's settled law. It ain't gonna happen. You thought it was impossible for Donald Trump to become president. It happened. You thought they would never, after Dr. King and others had fought so hard for the Voting Rights Act, they would never gut the Voting Rights Act. They did. And now y'all think it's impossible. Oh, Mr. Swan, you're being hyperbolic. That nobody's going to reverse the 13th Amendment and reinstitute slavery. Okay, y'all. What y'all doing, Farrah Gray? What they're doing is they are underestimating the diabolical resolve of white supremacy. That's what y'all doing. That's what y'all doing. You are underestimating the resolve of white supremacy. If you think that the Supreme Court that gutted the Voting Rights Act, that just voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, that is stacked with a 6-3 conservative majority, if you think they will not go after other civil rights gains, you are delusional. You are absolutely delusional. And you're not reading the times that we live in. Exactly. Never underestimate the power of your enemy. Okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. If you are seriously banking on the humanity of those who have demonstrated to you that they have no humanity, then you are the one who has been deluded. Straight up. Straight up. Real. So, if I were you, I would take this bet very seriously. Very serious. About 9 minutes left in this hour of the program before we jump into Justice and Flow. But here's the bottom line. As we push for policies and practices that protect Black women, we must simultaneously, in the words of singer Angie Stone, the world knows about our Black brother and the struggles he faces due to racism that are unique from the struggles of anybody else. As Richard Reeves and Sarah Nazou and Ember Smith argued in their Brookings paper, the challenges facing Black men and the case against them are causes for action. We've got to look at us as a collective, Black men and Black women together. And we've got to stop letting our enemy divide us to think that we can't protect Black women and respect Black men at the same time. We got to break the cycle of intergenerational disadvantages. We've got to find a deeper understanding of the challenges Black men and women face. We've got to push for a battery of specifically tailored and targeted policy intervention. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with the Democrats, is that when you talk about tailoring policies and legislation that specifically targets the unique challenges of Black people, they don't want to do that. They want some wide sweeping policy or legislation that applies to everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats, and Black people are going to benefit from this too. They don't ever want to specifically target policies, procedures, practices, or legislation that target the unique challenges of Black people. But short of all this, brothers and sisters, the only way we're going to rise as a collective is to protect our whole community, which encompasses all Black people. black people. We've got to answer the age-old question. Am I my brother's, sister's keeper? With an emphatic, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You know, we got to stop being so narrow-minded and narrowly focused and myopic in our worldview about our community. And we've got to be able to encompass a myriad of concerns simultaneously. Again, our enemy has divided us to the point where we think if I protect black women, that means I have to castigate, slam, and disrespect black men. And if I'm concerned about the unique challenges of black men, then I have to be against black women. No. And stop joining in with our enemy. Brothers, stop joining these bandwagons and say, I don't date black women because of this, or black women that, or black women the other. They deal with enough outside of our community than for black men to pile on. And black women, the same thing applies. Stop joining white feminists. Because you got to understand, white feminism ain't about you. They don't care nothing about black women. They just want to be equal to their white man. They don't want all women to be equal. They don't care about y'all. Now, they'll engage you all in their struggle and pretend it's about all of y'all. But like Sister Rachel Cargill says, white feminism is nothing but white supremacy in heels. Why y'all think 58% of white women vote Republican? Every election. It ain't just about the 55% that voted for Trump. They vote against our interests in every election. That's how white women vote. And y'all think they on y'all side? And so you join in with white women against black men? I hate to see it. When our brother made the movie Birth of a Nation, Nate Parker. And I went to see it to support our brother. I got the chance to meet him and sit with him in a pre-screening of it when I was in Atlanta with the Conference of National Black Churches. And white women got on this kick because he had been charged when he was in college with allegedly raping a white woman and was acquitted. You know they don't acquit no black man of raping a white woman unless there's no evidence. And it had happened 21 years before that. And they got on this bandwagon about boycotting his movie because of charges he had been acquitted of. And black women got on the bandwagon with the white women to tank his movie, Birth of a Nation. You need to go get that now. You need to go download it and see it now. It was an excellent movie about Nat Turner. For black women, y'all have to stop jumping on these white women bandwagons against black men. And see, here's the thing. I can have beef or something to say about somebody in my family, but you can't. Okay? You know, me and my siblings, we can talk about one another. We can sit around and say whatever we want to say about each other. But y'all can't. Y'all can't. And I'm not going to join in with y'all to talk about my family. We got to stop doing that. Black men, we got to stop joining our enemy to castigate black women, and black women stop joining our enemy to castigate black men. I got to do a part 2 to this because just not enough time to really, deal with the meat of everything, I wanted to say about this particular topic. But I got to move into the Justice and Flow Hour. Those of you who are on social media, just ride on along with us. Those who are listening over WTCC, join us on social media. Jump on over to social media. But we'll see you next Monday at the same time. If you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts. Right there at Six Corners. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I. Those on the social media side, we'll be right back. All right. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Peace. Blessing.
Oh, and how we do it? Soul Train.
How are you?
Good morning, Mother Green.
You know,
Morning, peoples.
you know what I gotta get? I gotta get a clip of. I gotta get a clip of MLK. Um,
Good morning, baby. Good morning, Taria.
of his speech when he says, "Let justice roll down like water," and I gotta splice that into that intro. I gotta get that. You know, let justice roll down like water, and righteousness like a mighty stream. Anyway, that's just random thought.
Yeah, well, he's getting ready to produce something else anyway, so that would be great. Good morning, Sister Kathy. Good morning, everybody.
All right, so we had a hot first hour.
I was listening.
Oh, you were okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right.
Good
Well,
morning, Sister Mathis, I'm sorry. Sister Lydia. Yeah, so if I can get my 2 cents before I guess arrive, or has she arrived already?
there's somebody in the waiting room.
Okay, so let me get my 2 cents real quick because I think we got a hot show, to us.
Hey, you don't do nothing real quick.
I am gonna do this real quick. I just want to get my 2 cents about Kevin Samuels. I totally agree with what you said in terms of respecting his family, his mother. I don't think he had any children.
You did get a daughter.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't follow him. I didn't follow him at all. So I don't know him at all. However, I was listening to the Clay Kane show, which I oftentimes do. And I found out, by listening to the Clay Kane show, that 70% of his followers and listeners,
Women.
no, not just women, Black women.
Yes.
Okay, so but hold up, because I gotta get this point out. He was not only supported by the Black women that are also complaining, about the way that he used his platform and the way that he spoke to us. So that's a contradiction. That's hypocritical in itself. And then he only kind of transitioned into, being a millionaire from this platform in about the last year, maybe a little more than a year or so. I think he started this in like 2019, but like when he transitioned into, speaking to, Black women in the way that he did, I'm not gonna get into that part, but in the way that he did, Black women started to pay him through Patreon and all of those other, social media methods. And he was making like 2 to 3, no, I think it was actually like $3 to $4 million. He started making like $3 to $4 million. So, I mean, we can't like criticize him at the same time support him. I mean, so it's like, it's like,
The same thing.
choose what you're gonna do. Choose what you're gonna do. So,
That-
and I'm speaking to us. Choose what you're gonna do.
That's the same thing they did with R. Kelly. That 80% of the people who were still, this was after the allegations and all of that, 80% of the ones who were still listening to and buying his music were Black women.
Yeah, so I wish we could I mean, I understand that we all have different opinions. I know that we're never like, in tune to the point to where we're 100% anything. However, I wish we could at least do like we do with our voting. Typically when we vote some 90 something percent the same. Some 90 something percent the same. I wish we could do that with our mindset in other areas, or whatever. But I just wanted to, give that little 2 cents about Kevin Samuels. I just do agree that we need to, be thoughtful and more gracious about the things that we say, especially in someone's demise. And and I know I agree with you also that if you didn't care for me, or you don't care for me, say it while I'm alive, whatever the case may be. Don't wait till I'm gone, or whatever, and then, become, all of a sudden the superhero about what kind of person I was. Say it while I was alive so that we can discuss it, or whatever. Good morning. Good morning, Elder Mayfield. Good morning. So, so we do have a guest this morning, Bishop. I'm really excited about this conversation. In lieu or because of Mother's Day on yesterday, and also because this is a very special month to me, I explained it to you all on last week how this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So all month, our topics are going to be dealing with our mental health struggles, particularly in the Black community. But we're not gonna, just exclude the numbers, if you will, from any other community. But we are gonna stress and certainly hone in on the Black community. With that being said, it became up on my heart because of kind of the evolution of yesterday of Mother's Day. That we need to talk about mothers or mothering and mental health. So being a mother and the stress and the impact on our mental health that may bring. So I have a very special guest here to have this discussion with us this morning. She's a friend to us. She's a sister of the community. She's been to the show several times. I think she was probably one of our first guests, if not the first guest, when Justice and Flow came into being. She is she's not only a newly elected city council woman for Ward 8, which is the ward that we live in, but she's also on the mental health committee, as well as having her own business and practice as a licensed mental health counselor herself. So she is probably the perfect person. And I was so glad that she was willing to do this and have this conversation. She's probably the perfect person today for me to start this discussion, and it might bleed over into next week as well. So you can bring her up, Bishop, if you can, and it's none other than our own sister. We call her Queen Zeta Govan. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. You can hear me good?
Hey, I'm doing good too. How was your Mother's Day?
It was nice. It was quiet. I was waiting for my kids to reach out. They finally did.
Yeah. Well, I know that feeling too. I think you had a daughter to move away recently, and
two of them.
Okay, two of them. Okay, so that's why I was quieter. Yes. Yeah, so I know that feeling, and I kind of know the anxiety around having your daughters gone and your grandbabies, gone with them. We have one in Atlanta and one in Dallas, and so that was, and then plus this Mother's Day, which is, kind of a good segue. I was having a tough time. So if I could just take a moment of transparency, I was having a tough time. Last year was the first Mother's Day without my mom. And, I kind of feel like I just floated through it, or whatever.
Mhm.
I feel like, I said to myself, oh, okay, I'm all right. I got through it. But this
Mhm.
year, uh, it's like I started to feel it before the day
Mhm.
arrived. So I had got to the point, Jada, to where I said, "Oh, I'm so ready for the day to come and be gone." Like
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't want to read any text. I don't want to see any tributes. I don't
Yeah.
want nobody to say Happy Mother's. I started to, kind of feel with fear. I
Mhm.
almost wanted to go to bed and just put the covers over my head, and I wanted somebody to come and get me when the day was done. Um,
Mm.
but then it was really weird. I was talking to some of my friends like you. I was talking to some of
Mhm.
we were just having some interactions through text and stuff like that. And people started to say Happy Mother's Day. And then I thought about Jatan and her family,
Mm.
and my God, we just laid her to rest. And then Mother's Day is right around the corner and all of that. And my heart was bleeding for them. And then, and I felt like I heard the spirit say, "You're focusing on her passing and you're not
Mm.
focusing on her life." You know,
Mm.
and when I heard that, I felt my energy start to change a little bit. And then I had got together with some of the ladies in the Garden Queens program, that, initiative that we're starting at the church, and I got to tell you more about that. Um and we was praying over the land, and then Sister Anna said this, she made this statement. She said, nature N- is nature is a sign, because a falcon flew over the property, you know. And she said nature is a mother, like a
Mm.
sign of mothering, And she
Mhm.
said, when she said that, I started to think about how we place seeds in the ground, and we water, we nurture, we take the weeds out, we put rods in, so it'll grow up straight. We do whatever we need to do, to take care of what we're trying to produce. And it just was so symbolic of Mother's Day.
Mhm.
And so I was uplifted, and I decided that I was just gonna go hard the rest of the weekend, through the day, and everything. And it paid off. It paid off to change my mindset. So I'm sorry, I digress.
Mm.
I digress. I
That's okay.
needed to kind of get that out there. So
Mhm. It's
as I
fine.
mentioned to you, I wanted to talk about, mothers and
Mhm.
mothering, if you will, and the weight of mental health on mothers. Bishop, did you want to say something with some of the things that I shared already?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, before I get back to Zeta, I was just wondering, did you notice anything about maybe the tension I was experiencing over this weekend or yesterday? I was just
Well, let me put it like this.
And be honest, because this is part of the conversation. This is
Uh,
part of the conversation.
I was anticipating, but
Mm.
I would add that once we got to where we were going, that you were able to kind of become relaxed and enjoy the moment that we were in,
Mm.
and that was a good thing.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I really started to feel it like maybe even a week and a half ago. And I was just wondering if you picked up on anything, like a week and a half ago, a week ago, anything, any differences?
It's not that I necessarily um, sensed or picked up on it based upon any visible um, action or anything. It's what I anticipate, what I thought would be natural for this time of the year. Um, given that your mom is not here, given that some of the children are not going to be here, and all of that. I just thought it would be a natural reaction to have some level of anxiety around this time.
Hmm. So when you say anxiety, though, what does that look like? Because I think that that's a very much needed conversation. What does that look like when you say you anticipated seeing some level of anxiety from me?
Well, I mean, I've never lost a mother. The closest person I lost to me was a sister, and I know I know the anxiety I get when it gets close to Christmas time, because that's when we lost her 2 days before Christmas. I know the triggers of when I go to the airport. Whenever I go by gate number 5, which is the JetBlue gate, because that was the last place that I met her in the airport when she flew back to Springfield to begin treatment. Um, and so I know that there are triggers. I know that there's specific time of the year um, that 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 floods your mind with not just memories of the lost individual, but with the fact that there's another time coming where they're going to be absent from you being able to share. And so that brings about a natural level of anxiety. And though you prep through that to try to enjoy the time with those that are here and around you, that's a permanent part of you. I mean, so I can only imagine that magnified, with it being a mother. So that's what I mean.
Okay. So back to you, Zeta. So you can see what direction this conversation is going in. We'll get back to the work that you're doing on the city council and the mental health committee, a little bit later on in the show. But let's continue with this conversation about mothers and mental health. So, all right. So, hmm, I guess my first question to you is, what was the first thing that came to mind when I told you what kind of discussion I wanted to have today?
I think the first thing that came to my mind was that it was something that we need to have it be in conversation about all the time, right? Mothers play a very important role in society, and I don't know that people really understand how important. Last month, well, this month, I wrote the article in the African American Point of View on mothers, and I talked about how mothers are like the real gangsters, right? They risk their lives having children, right? It's risky to have a child, to have a real a grown, I mean, a person growing inside for 9 months or however long they decide to stay there, and then to push them out or to have a surgery to have them taken out alive and well, that's risky, and that's death defying. So mothers, do death defying from the moment that they decide to have a child, and then the child grows up, and we don't know how that child is going to be. We don't know what decisions they're going to make. And all of those things can be really heartbreaking, so mothers are, I would say, anxious all the time. As Black and brown mothers, every time especially our male children leave the house, we have this thing about us that we don't know where they're at, what's going to happen to them, what kind of risks they're out there, being placed in, besides the decisions that they're making. Because they don't always make good decisions, although we try our best, to train up a child. And hopefully when they get older they won't depart from it, but they will take their twists and turns, and
Right.
so we worry about that even when they're grown. My children are all grown, and yesterday I'm thinking, oh, where are they okay? Thank God that my son checked in with me, and of course said happy Mother's Day. He was working, and like you said earlier, my two daughters are in North Carolina with my little granddaughter. She's like, don't tell anybody, she's my favorite. But and then they don't call me all day. So I'm saying, when are they gonna call me? And I of course told her mother happy Mother's Day. She was working, of course. And it's like this stuff, the stress that they put us through on a regular basis, and I think any mother that has, good mental health, let's say, is still going to be stressed and anxious at times. So this is a conversation that we certainly have to have. On Mother's Day, a lot of mothers aren't really close to their children, so they might not be getting those Mother's Day, messages, and they're going to have emotions. And then mothers that have, issues with mental health are really struggling up during these times, and it's not just on Mother's Day, of course, as you know. Every day is a struggle to have children, to raise children, and just to be concerned about them. And not just biological mothers, of course, but our neighborhood mothers, that take on the children in the neighborhood, care for the neighborhood. That's what we do.
Right. I'm so glad that you said that. That was a listen, we could talk about this for the rest of the year, right? Literally, and not miss a beat, and not have, not cover the same topic at all. So that's how loaded, parenting, and with certainly, being a mother, we're talking about mothers today, is. So with that being said, let me back up and say this. Let me circle back and say this. It's really important that we acknowledge the fact that you don't have to physically give birth in order to be a mother. I think that we all agree with this. We think that just being a woman, in today's world, or whatever, is, the one of the qualities. It's the essence of a woman. It's the essence of femininity, if you will, right? It is a quality that we are born with. So we are going to mother, whether we like it or not. Some of us have the gift of mothering, through physical birth, or adoptions, or other means. But those are certainly the most popular means. Is giving birth to yourself, adopting children, or maybe even taking on other children. I work with clients who, for whatever reason, parents, were not able to raise their children. So, somebody stepped in. They already had families or whatever, but they stepped in. They wanted to keep kids together, or they, didn't want this child to be lost to the system or whatever, and they took those children on. You also have mothers that didn't go through adoption, did not take on other children or whatever, but they helped to raise your children right in the neighborhood, in the community. They watch out for them when I experienced this. They watch out for them when they come home from school. If they get locked out, they can stay at their home, or or whatever the case may be, and they got fed their lunch, or they got fed their, or whatever, until you got home from work. Or whatever. It's so many mothers around us. So we definitely, want to acknowledge the different kinds of mothers. And we also want to acknowledge, I think this is really important too on Mother's Day. We also want to acknowledge the mothers that have passed on. And they are, like I said, I thank God for the transition of thought, and I had and now I got the strength to say it to my siblings, and to say it also to my children, that let's not focus on her passing, because that was a fleeting moment. Let's focus on the 80 years that she gave us, or whatever. Let's focus on the life that she lived, And when I started thinking about how she interacted with me, I started
Mhm.
laughing more because my mother was a laugh a minute.
Mhm.
I started
Mhm.
laughing more and I stopped thinking about her in death and I started remembering her in her
Yes.
life.
Mhm.
So I did want to say that. I wanted to just make it known that there's all different types of mothers. So we've
Absolutely.
been Theta, we've been in this like we lost I believe her name was Naomi Judd, the mother of the Judds, right? Well, one is an
Yeah.
actress and the other one sung with her. I think her name was Winona or
Mhm.
something. Her name is Winona.
Yep.
And I really I didn't follow them, didn't listen to their music or anything, but I did have a great appreciation for the way that they stated that she passed away. And so
Mhm.
they basically said that she has succumbed to mental illness. And so through a little bit more research, found out that she had been dealing with depression for a number of years.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I want to make this segue into some mental health disorders associated with being a parent,
Mm.
especially being a mother or a parent. But we're going to focus on mothers today. So there's this
Mhm.
disorder, as we know, is typically known as postpartum depression, or another term is perinatal
Mhm.
mood disorder, perinatal mood disorder. So there's different levels and kind of depending upon the range of the patient or whatever,
Mhm. Mhm.
also kind of dictate, how postpartum depression impacts them. I
Mhm.
am going to share my bout with postpartum depression. Had no idea that's what I
Mhm.
was going through. Had absolutely no idea until years later, years and later, I was in school actually, and
Mm.
was doing my mental health counseling degree, and so came up on that disorder, and I was looking at the criteria of symptoms, and I said, "Oh my God." I was like, "Oh my God, that's what it was."
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
how I found out that some of the things that I was going through that I did not share with anybody, right?
Mm.
Did
Mm.
not share with anybody because I didn't. My thinking was back then, years before, and it would have been 20. My son to be 28 this year, so it would have been 28 years ago because he was a few weeks old
Mm.
when I started to see the symptoms, right? I didn't share it with anybody because I thought that if I did, people would think I was crazy. And
Mhm.
I thought
Mhm.
that I'm a black woman, or whatever, and I grew up kind of with some type of conditioning that I just needed to pray more. I just needed to give it to
Mhm.
the Lord,
Mhm.
whatever. And I did, and I did all of that. Eventually I came out of it, but nevertheless, I never knew until years
Mm.
and decades later, what it no, it
Mhm.
wasn't decades later, I'm sorry. It was more like 8 years later. 8 years later,
Mm. Mm.
what was going on. And so anyway, I did some research to say this before I ask you a question about it. I did some research that said about 20 to 25% of mothers experience perinatal mood disorder or postpartum depression, right?
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
mothers in general. It's about 40% for black mothers. It's about
Mm.
40% for black mothers. However, of that 40% of black mothers,
Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
they are less likely to be diagnosed. They are also less likely to
Mhm.
be treated because of all of these various reasons, and they are less likely to even know that what they
Mhm.
are dealing with postpartum depression. What are your thoughts
Right.
on that?
Well, I think I totally agree with what you said regarding the postpartum depression. And most women will do exactly what you did and not talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I actually, in my internship, when I first started getting my license, I met a woman who had depression, and she would have thoughts of her baby being hurt. Not that she wanted to hurt the baby, but she was having these thoughts, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like it was scaring her, of course. Nobody wants to hurt me, but
Mm-hmm.
she kept, having like he fell downstairs, or he fell out of the crib, or he got dropped. And she didn't want to tell him because she was afraid, right? You're gonna hurt your baby from you. So when talk
There's a
about that problem,
Yeah.
so of course in our community, like you said, we're conditioned. Oh, don't talk about it. Oh, Whitney, I'm sorry that I suffered with all
Yeah,
my
that's our
kids.
daughter. I had no idea. That's
Well,
our
Yeah,
daughter, Zeta. I had no
they
idea,
don't talk
baby.
about it, and
Yeah,
that's
I know.
the
See,
thing. Because so
I
so again, we have to get that notion out that we can't talk about it. We should definitely pray about it, right? Definitely pray about it. But we should also go to the, let's say, a postpartum support
Mhm.
group at the
Mhm.
church. You know what I mean? That would, I think, alleviate a lot of being alone in this, because that's what we
Mhm.
do. And that
Mhm.
mental illness is an isolating disease because of
Mhm.
the stigma
Mhm.
associated with it. And we just have to find a way to talk more about it, because that's what we need to do.
I
I say
absolutely
go in
agree.
the dark and they die in
Uh-huh.
the light of exposure. So when we have this secret, right? Like you had,
Yeah.
like maybe Whitney had, it's a big secret that's growing. But when we start talking about it, we realize, wow, I'm not the only one. Other people are
No.
going through this. Let's deal with it.
Not only are you not the only one, here's the thing. Not only are we not the only one, most likely it was inherited. Most
Hmm.
likely it was
Hmm.
inherited. The
Yes.
fascinating thing about this, me and my mom were like this. We were tight,
Oh.
right? I'm her oldest girl. Although she was, I left and I moved here. My mother, um, up until the moment she passed away, she was like, "When you coming home?" She wanted me to come
Mm.
back
Mm.
home. When you coming home? But
Aw.
I said that to say we were really tight. But don't you know, it was about 2 years. Well, it was before the pandemic started. My mother died the year the pandemic started in 2020 at the end of the year, right? And it was right after her birthday. Don't you know, just a little bit before that, my mom told me that she was taking depression medication. And I was like, what?
Mm.
I've been taking it for
Mm.
years. Never told
Wow.
anybody. Never told anybody. And
Mhm. Mhm.
most likely her depression was associated with being a single parent
Yes.
and all of the
Mhm.
struggles and anxieties around being a single parent, trying to raise 5 children on her
Yes.
own.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
she never said it to anybody. That was something that, she kept secret
Yeah.
between her and her
Mhm.
doctor,
Mhm.
or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. We never even had a conversation about mental
Mm.
health. It was such a shocker to me that she was taking depression medication because she never talked about it. And I'm sure that the reason why she never talked about it was because she was uncomfortable with having that
Mhm.
conversation
Mhm.
because of
Yeah.
like you said, all the stigma around it, all the
Yeah.
stigma
Yeah.
around it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, Whitney, because like I said, most likely it's in the
Mhm.
family, it's in your
Yes.
bloodline, maternal bloodline, it's in your maternal
Mhm.
bloodline, baby. And unfortunately, and I repent, unfortunately, it's not the kind of dining room conversations that we have
Right.
with our
Yeah.
children and with our
Yeah.
spouses. But
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
agree with you wholeheartedly, Zeta. We need to have more forthright conversations, with our families around our mental health. We need to have mental health check-ins. We need to have mental health
Mm-hmm.
check-ins.
I'm
Yeah.
working on that with the mental health committee. We were talking about that at our last committee meeting, where we're going to hopefully have a day where once a month we have free mental health check-in. So everybody could go in anywhere, any of the agencies, a 15-minute questions about, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Because those are really good indicators of your mental health, right? If you're not sleeping, something might not be right. How have you been feeling? Are you, feeling like yourself? Or do you feel different or weird like you felt after the birth of your baby? That's something that we need to have because we could prevent a lot of the need for maybe higher levels of service. If we check it in there and start addressing the issues there. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like I said, I want to make sure that we talk about that mental health committee before the show is over. I just wanted to go into some of the comments. I
Yeah.
see my daughter said that she went to seek help after the birth of her third daughter. And like I said, we didn't even have a conversation about this. I don't even know what I was thinking. I don't know why it didn't occur to me how important, and I got all of these granddaughters. I don't know why it just didn't occur to me that this is a conversation that I need to be having with my daughters. They're having babies now.
Right.
So I need to be
Right.
checking in with them. I don't know why. I can't even
Well,
explain
you
it.
just don't think about it. You know what I mean? You don't think about it because, well, that was just an isolated incident that happened to me, right? But that's what we think, but it's not, and so it is good.
It's not.
Haven't checked in with my daughter either. You know what I mean? I'm going to now that we're talking about it, and I'm a mental health professional.
Right. Right.
We should do, but we just, because it's not common, to do. So I really love the idea of maybe having kind of like just drop-in support groups. Every church should do it. Every community agency should do it, just to check in. You know what I mean? And having people, talk about what's going on.
Right.
There's a question in the chat says, can you speak to the medication causing suicidal tendencies? So, side effects from medications are real. There's all different kinds of side effects. I think that if a person is already having suicidal tendencies, a medication might them or decrease them, right? Or when you start taking medications, if you stop taking medications, you might have more suicidal tendencies. The thing about suicidal tendencies, again, Lady Swan, is to talk about them, right? Don't be afraid to ask somebody, are you suicidal, right? Are you thinking about killing yourself? There's nothing wrong with asking the question, because somebody might say, yeah, I am thinking about that. Then we can address it, right? But if we don't ask, we don't know.
Lady is a caller.
Okay. Okay, Bishop. Thank you for that, Zeta. That was good. Thank you.
Hello. I was wondering if y'all still there. Hey, happy belated Mother's Day. First foremost. But anyway, like I was watching y'all, Justice and Flow, and I have a couple questions for you.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
What's the question?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. God bless you. God bless you, brother. When you get yourself together, call back. Okay. Thank you. And we hope you're okay. We do. We hope you're okay. So with that,
Miss Juanita said the women in my family called it the baby blues and laughed it off. That's how they dealt with it before. Yeah.
My mother called it the a setback. That's what she called it. She called it a setback. And as a matter of fact, now that I remember, I forgot about this part. As a matter of fact, when I was going through it, she knew something was wrong. My mother did, just by talking to me on the phone, and she sent my little sister out here to live with me.
Oh
And you know
wow.
what? Her coming out here to live with me, she had just graduated from high school, so she came out here, she lived with us, for a couple of years and such. But her coming out here to live with me at that time was very helpful because I
Mm,
got support. You know what I'm saying? I had support. I had other children. I had small children. Um,
yes.
and so the new baby, like I said, the new baby, it was a lot of other stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
in the family at the time. A whole lot. I was under probably the greatest amount of stress that I had ever been in my life,
Mm-hmm.
so I was vulnerable to it. And that was the other stat that was mentioned too when it comes to postpartum blues,
Mm-hmm.
or baby blues, or
Yep.
setbacks, and all of that. That was the other stat that was mentioned, that Black women, Black mothers tend to be more vulnerable to
Mm-hmm.
depression and more
Yes.
vulnerable to again to a perinatal mood
Absolutely.
disorder, So yeah, thank you for that, Sister Beeman, because that's really important, that
Mm-hmm.
we do have other language, we do have other terms sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We call it, and again though, that's probably because of the stigma attached to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably
Mm-hmm.
easier to swallow,
Right.
the after baby blues, or
Yes.
whatever.
Yep. Yep.
But
Definitely.
here's also another perspective. You kind of dismiss that. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
dismiss that as
Mm-hmm.
normal, and you may not seek the help that you need. You may not end up
Well, like
seeking
she
the
said,
help
you
that
laugh it off. It's a
you,
joke.
yeah, you laugh it off.
No, she just got the blues. And just like the music, right? From
Hmm.
that era, the blues, that was all
Hmm.
about depression,
It
but
really was.
it was
It
songs.
really was. It really was. And you know what? People don't want to be labeled as depressed.
Mm-mm.
People don't want to
Mm-mm.
be labeled, with anxiety disorder. People don't want to be labeled as
That's right.
ADD and ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be labeled because of the way that we change. That we treat it when you label it, right?
Right. Right.
I remember, and it's kind of, um, what is it? I'm kind of comparing and contrasting, right? When my son went to be evaluated for special ed services, I
Mm-hmm.
did not want them to put it in his
Right.
record because I did
Right.
not want the teachers to fall back, always default,
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, he's unable, or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
and that worked to my benefit, because my son quickly, before he went to the second grade, he quickly was in the top 5% in the state, in the
Mm-hmm.
top 10% in the country, scoring, that high, academically, because again, I refuse to, have him labeled,
Right.
because I know
Right.
how people are. So they do, they
Mm-hmm.
look at labels,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they depressed, oh, they this, oh, they that, and they not fully understanding what that
Right.
means. So we need to
Yep.
normalize those. We need to normalize that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I tend to
Yep.
tell, and I want
Well,
you
when
to
you said,
go ahead, Zeta.
I was just going to say, one about putting a diagnosis on something, like someone in the chat said, right? You can't treat something if you don't have a diagnosis, So, like,
Mhm.
if your arm is not broken and they don't say it's broken, they're not going to fix it because they haven't diagnosed that you have a broken arm, even though it's obviously broken. But if you
Mhm.
have, like, Whitney, thank you so much for sharing and disclosing. She said she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, to generalized anxiety disorder, and
And depression.
postpartum depression. She said. So, she was able to get the treatment that she needed. And treatment is not always medication, right? You don't always
Not,
need medication. Someone put in the chat about maybe nutritionally, you might need to make some changes, right? So you might need to change some of the things that you eat, some of the ways that you're eating. But still, until you have a diagnosis, you're not able to say, oh, this is what the issue is. Now this is what I could use as a solution, and medications don't always need to be prescribed. You might just need talk therapy, which is very important and very helpful. Which is, I like to do that a lot, as you do, Lady Swan. Cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yeah.
dialectical behavioral therapy. Those are the things that people come in and they just want to talk about stuff, because that's something that I think in society we don't do.
Yeah.
Don't talk
Yeah.
about.
That's why I love group therapy. Group therapy is my
Mhm.
absolute favorite. So
Yes.
whenever I get myself together and I'm opening up my practice, that's going to be the majority of services that I provide is through group therapy, because
Mhm.
like I said, I
Mhm.
love group therapy, and I adore couples therapy, couples
Oh
therapy.
yes.
But
Mhm.
I'm an in-home therapist right now because I work for an agency. But my goal is to eventually open up a practice where I'm providing more group therapy, because I think that that's
Yes.
more impactful, and it kind of hits
Absolutely.
quicker, in spreading.
Mhm. Yes.
So, but anyway, let me get back to Whitney, because like I said, Whitney is our daughter, and baby, thank you so much for adding to the conversation. Had no idea, but I thank God that you had enough wherewithal, that something was putting you enough to where you thought enough of yourself, right, to seek
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
treatment that you need.
Yes.
That's part of our self care, right? That is absolutely part of our, self care. Not being too proud
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
seek help or to ask for help. You know, Pretty much the number one
Mm.
way that we can prevent from being overcome or overtaken by some of these disorders that could, certainly come into play is by um, practicing self care, and
Mhm.
also making it a priority to always have a support system in place. A support systems, man, listen, I wouldn't be here today without
Mhm.
a support
Yep.
system.
Yep.
So everybody needs to build a support system, and everybody needs to appreciate the people in their lives, that provide
Yes.
any level of support. But the number one
Mhm.
thing
Mhm.
in self-care is setting boundaries, saying no. That's a complete sentence.
Yes.
you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and not being afraid, ashamed, or whatever, proud or whatever, to ask for
Yes.
help. When you
That's
need
right.
help, ask for help.
Mhm.
If they don't
Mhm.
know, then they ought to be strong enough to try to direct you, in the right direction. Make a referral.
That's right.
If you get a therapist like me, like Miss Zeta, we don't know everything, but I tell you what we
Mm-mm.
can do.
You know
We'll
where to
put it
find
out
it.
there. We'll find it. We will find it. Trust me.
Right.
We will. If
That's
it's
right.
we will find it. And that's
Mhm.
that's with any
Mhm.
good therapist, any good counselor, worth their
That's
salt.
right.
If they don't know it, they need to find it. They need to be
Mhm.
resourceful enough to
Mhm.
find it. And let me also say this about spiritual counseling. So Ms. Zeta, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but at one time I was thinking about pursuing my PhD. So I did a
Mhm.
review of literature, anticipating that if I had to do a dissertation, what would it be on? So
Mhm.
I chose this topic. I chose to do some research on the reluctancy of Black Christians to seek psychotherapy, to
Mm.
seek,
Mm.
psychotherapy. And so what I found out was that it wasn't just a Black thing. I found that out, that it wasn't just a Black thing, but
Mhm.
just kind of
Mhm.
culturally conditioning. I found out that we believe that our pastors, our priests, our spiritual leaders, our rabbis, that they are knowledgeable in all things. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we've been culturally trained to believe spiritually.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
we'll go to them and for counseling in everything. And a lot of them, some not all of them, of course, there's always exceptions, right? A lot of them don't know what they're doing. And instead
Mm-mm.
of instead of making the referrals, right? Instead of trying to find the, the resource that would be more appropriate to whatever the problem is or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much end up malpracticed, you know, on the congregant. And so
Yeah.
that's what my research found. And so if I ever did a dissertation, if I ever decided to pursue my PhD, I'm 55 now, so probably not. But if I ever
Gotta
decided,
be.
do a PhD,
You could do it when you're 60. You could go to school for
right.
free in
Oh, for
Massachusetts.
real? Maybe I do that. Maybe
Yep.
I do that.
That's what I'm
But
waiting
right
on. So
now,
I just wanted, I'm telling you,
go
but
ahead.
you're absolutely right about that, because a lot of times pastors, do pastoral counseling, right? And of course they do it before somebody gets married. But when people have serious mental health issues, they need to seek professionals, and there are some Christian counselors who are professionals,
Right.
like you,
Right.
like myself, who do
Right.
Christian counseling, and we are
Mhm.
Bible based, so people don't have to be afraid of that. So, but I just wanted to say congratulations to Whitney for she's in the process of completing her degree. She's going to open a dance therapy. I'm excited about that. I would love to incorporate art therapy into my practice, so
Yes.
Whitney, I
Yes.
might need your help. She's in Texas though, huh?
No, she's in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
Shannon-
Just as
Shannon
far.
is- we do have a daughter here that's she's pursuing her mental health counseling license
Nice.
too. And she's a
Nice.
dancer as well. But anyway, they still can collaborate and work together.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
but no, Whitney's been, she's the oldest, so she's been dancing the longest.
Nice. But I love that, because we need different people, just like children shouldn't be educated all the same way. Different people need different therapies, right? Like art therapy, dance therapy. Some people might need to
Play
do,
therapy.
some painting. Children love play therapy, so different therapies for different people. So let's continue doing this. I'm really glad to see that there are more counselors coming online soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the hot ticket right now. Mental health counseling is the hot ticket right now.
There's such a need.
It is
There's
such a need, and I'm glad that we're finally normalizing it. We're finally
Absolutely.
normalizing. So I wanted to say this too, and Miss Zayda, it's already 11 o'clock. I can't believe it. But I wanted.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I want to say this too, and I'm gonna use Whitney as the example since she's been so forthcoming today on this topic. I think we need to go over to next week, Miss Zayda. What you think? I think we need to go.
Let me look at my calendar.
Okay. But I wanted to say this while she's looking at her calendar.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I'm going to use you as the example. So Whitney said that she experienced perinatal mood disorder or postpartum depression with all three of her children. She did not share that information with me. And I did not know that. But one of the things that I do know, and I think this is really important that I say, and I've said it to her several times, she is an excellent mother. I mean, an absolute excellent mother. So the fact that she experienced postpartum depression did not diminish her superiority as a mother at all. The fact that she sought help, right, did not diminish how great of a mother that she is.
That's right.
At all.
That's right.
The fact that
it made her better, actually.
Right. The fact that she was diagnosed with depression, anxiety. I forgot I forgot the other one that she said.
Bipolar.
Oh, bipolar did not diminish
That's
her
right.
as a mother. Her
That's
husband
right.
will say it. Her dad will say it. I say it. Everybody in her life. She is the kind of mother that every mother wants to be. She is exemplary. You know, she is the model of Black mother. So I just think that it was really important, and I'm so glad, you know, that God provided this example. I didn't think it would come through my own daughter though. That God would provide this kind of example to show you that just because you
Yes.
need help, you know, with your psychological and emotional, you know, status or whatever the case may be, does not have to diminish you as a person, as a woman,
Right.
or any, you know, any of the roles that you play in life. As a matter of fact, I believe Whitney would probably say that it helped her to be an even better mother. And we
Yes.
already
Yep.
thought she was great, but she's, you know, she's becoming greater as she goes. Anything you want to say to that, Zeta?
I totally agree with you, you know, because the woman that I shared about in the beginning that thought she wanted, you know, to hurt her child, the therapy that she got because she disclosed and she got help made her an even better mother. Because that's what these mothers, when we go through postpartum depression, that's what our fear is, right? Oh my God, I'm going to hurt my baby. We don't want to hurt the baby. We want to be the best mothers we could be. And sometimes we need that additional help. So I totally agree with you. When you get the help you need, I'm an open book, right? I got treatment for substance abuse. I got treatment for depression. I got treatment for all of that stuff. And because of all that stuff, I am the person that I am today. And I can do the things that I can do today only because of that, right? And again, it's with God's help and with the people. God puts people in our lives to help us. He uses people to help us, you know, because that's what he's done throughout the Bible. That's what he's always done. You know, Moses, Noah, people come because God puts them in our lives.
So I don't know, Ms. Zeta, if you see it or not, but R.A. Torrey is pretty much having a conversation with Whitney, and I just wanted to address a couple of things. And R.A., feel free to call in. I think we got a couple of more minutes that Bishop will let us stay on. But I just wanted to say this, that first of all, nobody is putting therapy before God. You haven't heard that on this show, and you won't hear this on this show. I believe this, that the Bible says, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your path. So I'm just going to say this. I believe that you're supposed to be looking for God's leadership, for God's guidance in everything that we do. So God is always going to, I don't even say God is first. I say God is in the center of my life. So whatever direction I'm in, God is going to always be first. Whatever direction I'm in, if he's in the center of my life, whatever direction I'm in or facing or whatever, God will be first. So I'm acknowledging him first. With that being said, it's crazy to me when people say this to, you know, to people like my daughter, Whitney, who was willing, she's a woman of faith. Let me make that clear. She is already a woman of faith. She was already praying. It is absolutely okay that she decided to go and get professional help. And with that being said, do everybody call a dentist and say, I want to know if you're a believer before I come and see you and before you check out my teeth? Do you believe in God? Or do you call your surgeon and ask him if he believes in God? Some people do. I do. You know, I just want to know if my doctor, if my primary care or whatever is a person of faith. But I've seen plenty of doctors without knowing their status as far as their faith is concerned. I don't know why, but it is necessary. I do get it. Because when I was looking for a counselor, I wanted my counselor to be a person of faith. I wanted my counselor to be a person of faith because I did not want them to go outside of the guides of the Bible, which I believe, you know, or whatever, and counsel them. So I wanted them to be aware of the Bible and the principles and statutes of the Bible in counseling
Mm-hmm.
me. But I'm just saying, let's be very, very, very careful about putting that stipulation onto therapists and counselors who may be very well versed and very professional in providing services, but they may not be a Christian. They may be a Jew. They may be Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
they may be Muslim.
Right.
Or
Right.
they may be of whatever different kind of faith, or maybe they don't want to reveal what their faith is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That happens from time to time too, because we do live in a racist country.
Yes.
So maybe they
Yes.
don't feel safe necessarily revealing their
Mm-hmm.
faith. Either.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm just saying, let's be very careful with that, but at the same time, let's look for the therapists and the counselors that fit our needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amen.
You see, this conversation can go on, Bishop. And thank you everybody for participating
Thank you.
today. Ms. Zeta said that she's going to come back with us and we're going to continue this conversation. I knew it was hot when the Lord gave it to me. And like I said, I pray before I bring a topic to the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really believe that the Lord said this is where I want you to go, and I think He basically approved that today. Any final remarks for the show today, Ms. Zeta? You wanna bring to the table before we go?
I just want to thank you for having me on, and this absolutely right. This is a lively discussion that needs to be had, and I'm really happy that you're going to continue it, and really happy for the people that were in the comments, especially your daughter who disclosed and put a face on this, right? And someone asked her, how did you get through it? She said, I'm still going through it. I know that's right. Right. This is a daily struggle that we have and living, I think, is just a daily struggle, and all the things, especially with Black and brown people, that we get, all the microaggressions that we get on a daily basis, the attacks, sometimes attacks. We are always, struggling with something. I believe it was James Baldwin who said to be a Black man in America and to be relatively aware is to be in a constant state of rage. So that also is on top of everything that we're going through. So today we're talking about women. We're also always in a constant state of rage sometimes. So thank you once again, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zeta. Oh, tell us the name of your practice though before you leave. The name of your practice.
Yes, absolutely. It's called Listening with Love, and the reason I chose that is because Cornel West coined the term or the phrase, love is what justice looks like in public.
That's it. Love it. I love it. Thank you, Ms. Zeta. I'll see you next week. Same time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Same platforms.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. I think that does it. Okay, so we're out, y'all. Appreciate you tuning in, and to our guests and our listening audience. Check us out on next Monday, Lord willing. We'll be back. Same time, same bat station. Until the next time, we talk to you and you talk to us. Always remember, God loves you. So do we. Peace.